grain of rice, a grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lad.
There's a small bit of a needle there.
Now, come on,
Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
We're missing what the show. Then we're no longer the whipping boys of Munster.
How are we doing, lads? We're back, babies again. we were gone again. There, another prominent podcaster calls us the part-timers, but we'll have him know come the new year. We'll be back full time with him, competing for his figures. But fair play to him, that's his full-time job. I suppose he has to have a go at us there on Twitter. And we don't mind. Keep going. Keep it going. Keep giving us the mention.
All I say, Dalo, right? I've only one thing to say, boy. Welcome back, Dalo, to the pod. We missed you a lot.
Few were a bit late getting started here this morning. It's Wednesday, obviously. A lot of thunder and lightning at the moment, right over Tullycryne, and I'm afraid if my ears start shaking now and you see me going to one side, you'll know I went quite happy, in the middle of the pod. I dropped off. Mad time of the year. There's so much going on. Great to be back. Thanks to the lads in the background there helping us out getting started. And Mark has officially been thrown out of his office and he's inside in Charlie's room there. How are you keeping, Marco?
Charlie's got an upgrade today. Got a couple of his books there in the background there. We'll be reading them at night, so. Got shafted from the office this morning, Dale. So, you know yourself now, tis great to have an old chat like on a Wednesday morning for a bit and see how things went on over the weekend. But sure, there's been so much happening over the last couple of days. Our old buddy Ronaldo got the bullet there yesterday. So, Jesus, there's lots of things happening.
Who's old buddy?
Sure, you'd have to be very fond of him, for God's sake, sure. Any fella that's after winning the amount of Ballon d'Ors he's after winning. But you know what? It kind of brings the conversation back to this time of the season, isn't it? About your inter-county managers giving lads a tap on the shoulder and saying whether you're going to be involved or not next year. As TJ said there a while ago, the phone rings, it's the manager's number and you're saying, oh shit, am I going to be involved in that next year? There's a 20-second period of time there and you know within the first 3 or 4 months what's going down next year,
You will. I heard a story last weekend with a good few visiting buses. I'll try and give them as many mentions as I can before we go. But they were telling me about one Tipperary team who were kind of on the Raz, let's say, on the Monday after a county final. It was a big one. And next thing, there was a couple of bleeps on their WhatsApps and it was lads being called up to the county panel, and there was a couple of other lads just looking across at each other. They weren't getting any bleep to say they were gone. There's a new manager in a certain county, and obviously he was starting from afresh, so he didn't feel the need to ring fellas who were gone. Yeah, it's always a tough time of the year. Fierce amount of talk up here in Clare as well about one name, that being Jack Brown's been left off the Clare panel, and I mean, what a servant and what hurling he's playing at the moment for his club. Very deep role now, obviously, but into the Munster final after a fantastic win against the Cork champions. And but he's gone from the Clare panel is the talk up around here. Maybe he can play his way back onto us if he does the business against Ballygunner. But it is. I often found it difficult. I often tell a very funny one about the great Shane Ryan, the footballer, who joined the Dublin Senior Hurling panel when he was finished footballing basically, and came in and made a great contribution to us for a couple of years. Was top class guy to have around the place, played a good bit of National League, didn't really feature much in Championship, a couple of subs runs, and following year we were freshening it up, and I'm making the calls and I'm letting know 3 or 4 fellas that they're not part and parcel to the setup. But I ring Shane and I said, Shaney, I said Anthony Daly doesn't get to retire Shane Ryan, so get it out there that back is at you too long, and you've announced your retirement. And he said, that's fair enough, Dalo, I go that way. So that's the kind side of it, I suppose, at times with lads. But I didn't feel Shane deserved to be dropped. Maybe I wasn't ruthless enough.
I know. Well, the only thing I'll say about Jack Brown anyway, Dalo, is that if he's not on the Clare panel next year, if you have a diving competition next year in Clare, he'd probably be the first fella on the team sheet after Sunday's heroics. And we'll be probably getting back to that again in a minute. So
we'll go back
I'm sure you'll find a role from 2023.
We'll start with
Jack
Ronaldo.
Brown's a hardy buy, Marco. You'd know if you marked
He
Jack
is.
Brown. And he got a fair
And
belt.
that's why I'm so.
He got
That's
a
why I'm
fair
so
belt.
disappointed that he went down.
Well, he got a belt that he didn't even see coming from behind him.
I would agree
Across
with
his head.
I agree with you. Well, I tell you, open arm now, Dalo, to be fair, and there was no hurley involved, but I thought he went
It
down.
was his own hurley that was being thrown away. It was his own hurley that was being thrown away, Mark. Yeah, his own hurley. Why would anyone be throwing a hurley out towards the crowd like that?
I'd say, and Conor Cahalan would probably say to himself afterwards he should take a leaf out of Sean O'Halpin's spirit and the way the game should be played. If he has his hurley in his hand, he should have handed it back to him. He's paid a very, very heavy price for throwing a hurley away now. But there was nothing malicious in it.
Leave it down the ground, hurley.
Yeah, nothing malicious in it at all. But it was a severe penalty. But I will say this, and we said this before in the pod, Anthony, now. You know that players are inclined to go down an awful lot easier in these current times than they would have in the past. And you know from our playing days, the last thing you would do is show weakness and go down if a fella hits your belt. In actual fact, the more hurt you'd be, the more you'd actually stand up on your 2 feet to prove that no matter how hard you hit me, I ain't going down. I just think it's a tactic that's been applied by an awful lot of managements at the moment. If you get a tap, go down. And I don't like it. I'm straight up with you. I don't like it.
I think it was a harsh ending off Dalo myself. I think the full picture is, to be fair to Conor Cahalan, I don't think there was full intent there. I think just before the ball dropped, he was going for the break, and it looks like as if Jack Brown wraps him up to some degree, and there's a bit of an entanglement, and he picks up the hurley to throw it away. I don't think he intended to do it, and I do think after 9 minutes it was a very, very harsh red. You might say silly the way like he did catch him with his arm. There wasn't much in it. I didn't think it deserved a red card. But anyway, we didn't want to start and dive straight into that. Marco, I just wanted to make sure from you, you're definitely on Ronaldo's side. Is that what you said? You're saying that he should have been treated better by the big powers, Man United.
I'm like my former Cork man, Mr. Roy Keane, who called it from 4 months ago that this was going to end ugly, and that United were treating him with disrespect, and that when the offers came in for him, that he should have been left go. And I just think it's awful in the career that he's had, that it is going to end the way it has ended with Manchester United. And I'll quote, I remember myself when I was dropped from the Cork panel, I met Dr. Khan just briefly for a chat with him. And he just said to me, Mark, he said, look, you're retiring now. He said, you're not alone in this. Everybody has often been retired. He said 95% of inter-county players leave with a hump in their back. And he said, you won't be any. And I didn't really have a hump in my back. I was disappointed to be dropped and stuff like that, the way it was done. But I would say, I think we could do enough. And this is a club level and inter-county level. I think players could be left off, certainly, for the service they have given, or for the club in their county. I think it can be done, I suppose, nicer, or in a way that the player doesn't feel aggrieved in some respects, because all those players are kind of
Mark, there isn't a nice way.
I think rugby seemed to have it right. I don't see any rugby players that are left go from the international scene with a hump in their back.
Educate him there, TJ, will you?
Stop, Mark, right? One second. You're the player, right? In your head, you might be 30, 31 or 29 or whatever, and you think you're still good enough to play. Your head tells you everything is fine. The manager thinks Pat Ryan is going through his squad now, right? Let's say he might carry him for the first 2 months or whatever, right? But he might decide, Mark Landers, I don't see a future for him, right? So he's going to try and communicate with you. He's going to sit down. Like, there's no nice way of doing it. He's telling you, Mark, going back to your club. He might be as nice as he can to it. He could tell Ronaldo there, going back there to the B team and playing the games and the in-house games and all that kind of stuff, and I'll have a look at you. There is no nice way of doing it. And this time of the year, unfortunately, it's one of the parts of the job for inter-county managers that they don't like. Making phone calls, having cups of coffee, ringing people and say, look, at this moment in time, I don't see you part of the picture for 2023, Mark. You might take it on the chin and you might say to him, that's fine, I'll go back to my club. But deep down, that bitter hurt is there, Mark. And that's what causes a lot of the problem up and down the country in the GAA. And it's very hard to fix bitterness. Is that right, Dalo?
The only reason Roy Keane is being bitter and backing him up is he went the very same way himself, shouldn't he? He was told going away as well.
I suppose, yeah, but do you think that's right, Anthony? And we all know whoever you support, and we've 3 different teams here: Liverpool, Spurs, and United. You know, for that decade that Roy Keane was at the top of his game, he was the man in Europe, not alone in England or United. He was the best midfielder in Europe, and the way his career finished with United was shocking, in my opinion. And I thought disrespect is what it is. And the only point I'm making to here is, for people who have been brilliant servants for their club, their county, or whatever premiership, I think there's a nicer way or an easier way to let a fella down and let him off into the sunset. And I think, I go back to Brian Cody. I think Brian Cody has always cut fellas 1 year in advance of their sell-by date. And that's why he doesn't let fellas linger on. Richie Hogan is the only fella that I can't understand is still on the panel that he's not gone. But most of the other fellas
them boys were happy to go? Are you saying them boys were happy to go?
No, I don't.
What are we even talking about? Bloody crybaby Ronaldo, who's out playing in the World Cup, and Roy, who's out looking like Saddam Hussein, commentating in the World Cup, and all getting well paid for it. We're on about fellas here who have to dedicate maybe 7-8 years of their lives to getting on a county panel from a club panel, and it's been painful for them to be let back to normal life, and no one paying them nothing, and they're being paid nothing anyway for being there. So I think there's a huge difference. I think there's a huge difference. Let's face it. But the only thing I want to say, Mark, is the only thing I want to say is, I think when a new manager comes in, it doesn't really need to be going around the place. He names his new panel, I think, or names his panel that he sees starting off of 40 or whatever. And 'tis for a fella like Jack Brown is being let go, and Brian has been the manager for the previous 3 or 4 years. Well, I'm presumed there's at least a phone call or a meet up needed there to say to Jack, look, Jack, we're moving on. I think you've been a great servant, and great that you got your All-Ireland medal, but I'm moving it on. I think, like Pat Ryan, we named his bloody panel and no more about it. He's new, and everything is new.
Yeah, I would agree. I think with the new manager, definitely, he has his own ideas. He's going to set out his style in terms of how he wants to play, the type of player that he wants. And if you're a player that doesn't fit into that mold, I'm sorry, and thank you for your service, and move on.
Mark, is there a Ronaldo situation in Cork?
Sure. The closest to Ronaldo in Cork would be Patrick Horgan.
Patrick Horgan, one of the best players to ever pick up the league. Yeah. And I'm sure opinion will be divided, and Pat will have his opinions. Pat Horgan will have his opinions, and let's see what happens. Could have potential Ronaldo situation. Yeah. Anyway.
I'd say I was a bit surprised at Jack Brown, because I could see no real negative in having Jack Brown around. He ain't a troublemaker. He's a great trainer. Is he the best 6-backs in the county? Maybe not. But is he in the next best 6 after that? I think definitely. Everyone would agree on that.
Yeah.
And he's in great form. I was surprised with that, but Brian probably feels 3 years in the job, I think, and needs to freshen it up and needs to shake it up. I suppose that's his prerogative. That's the job he's charged with doing.
I think that's a point about being around the squad and how effective somebody is. Maybe like good workhorses in Ballydoyle that keeps the real quality ones on their toes. There's a huge value in that too, to have somebody in the 30 or 35 man squad.
Massive. I mean, Rusty Chaplin, great pal of mine, a couple of great trips during the last few weeks with him. But didn't feature that often for Clare, but by God, he knew the value of him on Lohan or Lynch and training, and looked in, and Rusty was never
Good management, Dalo, will always find that 1 or 2 fellas that they're good yardsticks. They're never going to be a 9 out of 10 player, but they'll give you 7, 7.5 every day of the week. And sometimes a manager can judge the other player on the basis of how he gets on against that individual, because he knows, like your Rusty Chaplin, he'll give you everything in training that day. And, if the likes of the low one can beat him up a stick, he knows he's in form.
Yeah. It's about 7 weeks, I suppose, since we were podding, so a good bit has happened. To congratulate you first, Mark, the Queen has done it again for us. Beautiful, fancy. I was looking at the prices night before, 6 to 1. And about 2 hours before the race, I had a quick check again. I see 14-1. I said, I can't let her go at 14-1. First 4. There was some crowd offering me. So I had a little nibble at 14s. And she came in then afterwards. I know what she returned. She returned 7s or 8s, did she?
Something around that. I don't know what happened.
Super ride by the young lad who was only turning into the last second, wasn't it?
Sure. Paddy Hartnett. Unfortunately, Jake Cohen got sick in the morning and couldn't take the ride. And Paddy Hartnett from Limerick, actually, TJ, we had a bite to eat for him. He's a gas young fella altogether. He told me he rides out in Donegal 5 or 6 days, and then he goes to Aiden's on a Sunday. So we were delighted to have his experience in the place. And of course, she was stepped up to 2 miles from 1.5 miles. So we were a bit apprehensive, and Ken Bud's stable, I suppose, hadn't had a winner all year with a small bit of a virus there earlier on in the season, so she hadn't been seen up to now. But it seems like the stable is back in form, and be very, I'd say, for listeners, take a look at the paper on Saturday. There might be a runner under DK Buds that might be of interest to you. I won't give you the name now. You'll have to do a small bit of work on it, and might be worth a few quid.
He can't do any more than that fee. He can't do any more than that fee, lads. But yes, I got about 3-4 texts, Mark.
Yeah.
You would say to me,
we had some data.
Oh, I didn't know if you were up there even now on a Wednesday. I wouldn't know would you have time to make it to Dundalk of a Wednesday. But
there's a lot of rumours about a lot of money being taken out of the ring, Dalo. A lot of money.
My brother Mike offered to drive, which was a big help, and my brother-in-law Kevin travelled. He's the racing manager, and with the local publican Tomas Tracy travelled as well. So there was a job on, nice and quiet. We went about our business, as the man says, and I see a few fellas scoring all right after the races, looking for a few quid.
I was just lucky. I got the 14s. I don't know. I've just clicked before ye plunged, obviously. Very funny. There was an Ennis horse that was backed into clear favouritism. Eamon O'Connell, I think, was training the horse outside Limerick there, and they're a syndicate, I think, from Kelly's pub in town, and they backed it from 14s into 4s, I think, and he got to the front and he slowed it down. And I was watching the whole race, and I was saying, this is going to suit the Queen now if they're a bit worried about stepping up and trip. And once she saw daylight, then she went for it, and she ran a cracker in 8 races. What a mare to one, Mark, in fairness.
She's a great little filly. I mean, like, listen to me. I'm after buying 2 brood mares off of her. I'm after buying another 3-year-old, and I'm after tarmacking the house on the strength of the prize money she's after winning. She's not after costing a whole pile, to be fair. Like, there's still a few quid left in the kitty, but you know, the enjoyment that she has given myself and Jackie and the 3 kids, and obviously a couple of the local lads as well. Like, and there'll be a huge amount of people listening to the pod. It's a pity now that there wasn't a pod beforehand. We might have given her an out squeak up or something like that, but she might have another day, Dalo. We ran her again in Punchestown, and she finished 4th in the listed race. We're trying to get a bit of black type for her because she won't race forever. It's a bit like the retiring of the inter-county fellas. At some stage, we'll have to let her off. That'll be a very hard conversation to let her off, but she'll have
down to Tom Tracy's pub.
That's it. Yeah, I'll be like the Shaq Hanlon when he brought back the horse up after winning the national. Bring her in for a pint of Guinness in the back door. But she's a great little thing. She's a great thing.
Fair play. No, and we'll keep an eye out for Saturday. So from Mr. Buds, thanking you for all that. We were racing ourselves in Galway, I'd say, since we were last podding. We'd no great joy with the Come On race and the 2 that are with Jim Bulger, Literatus, and Purple Gown. So they didn't really run great. So, but we had a bit of crack. You'd your driver as usual, and I was staying up for a day or two. So nice to get to sit down with you. Don't get to sit down with you often enough for a little drink. It was bank holiday Monday, midterm break as well. So it was grand. The pity we didn't get a bit of a better run from one of them, but sure. That's the way it is. That's just the way it is, huh?
I suppose that as TJ would say, and there'll be a tap on the shoulder to Mr. Baltra now. fairly soon. Decisions have been made. My friend, those two horses won't be involved in command racing next year. There's one sure guarantee thing in a way. What do you think, TJ?
Yeah, that's unfortunate. They're the harsh realities, isn't it? It's a competitive. It's kind of a results business, isn't it? Hurling and racing.
Yeah,
But
we'll be hoping
what?
to get our members back in and get great to get the winner the first year of KTT winning and running at listed level. It was fantastic, but we'll be hoping for one or two more.
And there's plenty of positives. And in fairness to Patrick, he's been on to us. Myself and Mark are going to go on tour there. Now we're going driving again one a day shortly, and we have one or two offers. So I think that our horses in Willie P's will be increasing. Isn't that right, Mark?
Correct. We just want to dot the I's and cross the T's, but it looks fairly certain that we will have at least 2 runners out of the Mullins camp in 2023. And I suppose we are learning a bit on the job as well. And I suppose for the members out there that have supported us, and Dalo, you saw it, I think, firsthand in Galway. We had a great old day in Galway, you'd have to say now, even though that we didn't hit the crossbar with anything, but for the amount of people that turned up, had a few drinks, a bit of a crack, a bit of a chat. We happened to end up in Limerick that night, and we were bumped into the Kilmarnock colours and in the Pearshie colours. If TJ wants to expand a little bit on that, we had to meet the Terminator on the night. I can tell you, he's a bigger York than I thought he was.
Yeah, that's a good old tradition. Yeah, that's a good old tradition in a lot of counties where the day after a county final is that the losing team would go and visit the winning team, which is good to see. And it was a good mix of the players, and it was good crack. We met a good few of them, and the crack was good, and we were getting plenty stick about our horses and this, that, and the other, and we were able to kind of hold our own. And we had a conversation with Will in the middle of the field about different players down through the years. And let's just say it was interesting. Isn't that right, Mark? We'll leave it at that. It was an interesting conversation.
I would have to give him a little bit more now than that, to be fair, because Will in fairness was oozy in confidence, right? I don't know, was the All-Star team announced at this stage now? I don't think he did. Did he get an All-Star this year now?
No.
That was the only thing I think we didn't throw at him, but he certainly has great respect for Mike Houlihan and Mike Fenley. I tried to put in a weak spoke for Baker, Dalo, that he would probably handle him, but he was having none of it. Absolutely none of it. And I'd say for a lot of players in the future, they better watch out. Will the Terminator is still on the way.
And you know what? He was terminating all around him on Sunday in the Gaelic grounds. I made a mad dash after Brandon O'Connell had put Ballyea ahead and got into the Gaelic grounds, and Jesus, he was like most of the Bally or the Napirsig team. He was hitting everything that moves, but he picked up a soft enough old yellow card, maybe a high hurley, and I thought it subdued him a bit. The way he plays, a lad like him, once he gets a yellow, he has to be so careful on the way he plays, especially if he gets an early yellow. And I thought it had a fair old effect on the way things turned around the second half. He's that type of a player. He doesn't need to be picking up an early yellow. We'll be on about fellas in the World Cup as well. It'll be like that. They'll be midfield enforcers. And he just when he got the yellows, a couple of Limerick lads behind me, a couple of lads from Killimon, just turned back and said, "I'd like to see that now." And just he wasn't as involved in the second half now. But I'm 100% with you. He's an outstanding unit in there. But you have to say huge credit to the midfield from Ballygunner.
Ballygunner too. Just before you finish, before you finish, and Will, about the enforcer role in the middle of the field and his turnovers, we know all about his game. But what a piece of vision from him for the ball to Keith Dempsey that was just out of the top drawer, in fairness.
Unbelievable. I turned back to the two lads I was saying to, and I said, was that really William? Get that ball inside, because it was the daintiest little flick we ever saw him playing. But brilliant vision. Yeah. Brilliant vision, TJ.
And it's what,
should we start?
Sorry, just before you go away from the Command Racing Club as well, it was great for the three of us to be in Ballybrit when Kevin Manning just announced his retirement. 40 years in the plate, started out as a 15-year-old, he's 55 years of age. Isn't it an incredible statistic to think a man is 40 years plying his trade, still at the top of his game at 55 years of age? And just for us as a group to be there, he took a picture with us afterwards. apologise the fact that he couldn't get into the winners' enclosure with the colours that we had, and we wished him all the best in his retirement on behalf of Come On Racing Club. But just to reiterate, it is a social club. There is a social aspect to this, and it's great fun. You're meeting new people all of the time. I'd never met Kevin Manning before, but between that connection and in the Hurling for Cancer in Newbridge, the amount of new people that you get to meet along the road is just incredible. And the Come On Racing Club has, 470 members. We hope that they'll all join again next year, and that this is only the start of it, and it's going to get better and bigger days ahead.
Just asking you on that, Mark, a couple of people have asked me about joining it, and they're saying, well, sure, is there any point joining it now for this year and renewal? And I think renewal is February, is it?
Yeah. I'd say that, but and a lot of people have suggested that could we give a Christmas voucher scenario, and we're working on that in the background because, wives might give their husband an old voucher for 200 euros or 250, whatever the membership cost will be next year. We're working that out as well with HRI and stuff like that. They're giving us a big help because they're really appreciative of how we're promoting the sport as well, and they like to have the GA involved in it. I know William Mullins is thrilled as well that it's mainly broadly based a GA club really, or a GA racing club. So certainly if people were joining now, they would be getting a 2023 membership is what they'd be getting. So if there's anybody who wants to join, 100% you will from now on be in the 2023 if you want to be involved in that. And but we're just not 100% certain, Anthony, what the membership fee will be for next year. I would suspect it could possibly go up a small bit because there are some extra things coming with the racing club that weren't there this year that will be there next year.
Okay, I still think, anyone that got around there this year and was able to go to see, go to Gorn for the day for Katie, being from Moore for Katie winning, go to the Willie Mullins stable tour and all the other. I was in Leopardstown as well to see Purple Gown, but I was caught up early in the year, as you know, with being involved in the club. It was very difficult to get away, but for 200 quid, it was nearly a joke.
And I
free into everywhere we went.
Yeah, and Patrick has also offered us to come to the stable for a second stable tour to see the winter horses, or what we call the Cheltenham horses or the Dublin Festival horses. So if that's something that would be of interest to people, we could definitely get that organised. That offer was put out to us. We just haven't probably made a decision on it. So, all the bigger horses will be there on a Saturday morning if people wanted to join us.
Good stuff. Just to let people know that that's very much in our plans for 2023 and going forward. We've really enjoyed it, and just to reassure people, there's always a few sending me messages on Twitter and Facebook and stuff saying, would you not let us know that you were going talking about the hurling 27 minutes in? But I think we have. We've touched on Will O'Donoghue today, and we've touched on and maybe Jim Bulger called Kevin Manning aside, Marco, yesterday morning or the morning of the bank holiday in Galway and say, today would be a good day to go, Kevin.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Well, so we had a few quid on his last winner. We had a few quid on it just on
the sharp price one, the one. Yeah. That was the way to go. That was a group race, was it, or something like that? Fair play. TJ, you went to Salt Hill on Sunday.
Very.
You probably saw the highlights of the two Munster games, I presume, in some shape or form, and you read plenty about them, no doubt, anyway. But a great county final, TJ. We'll start there. I think that's the logical thing to do because they go at it again next Sunday, I believe.
Yes.
Wouldn't mind going up to that. You never know. 20 points to 117. Ebbed and flowed, TJ. I see the interview from Tommy Kelly afterwards. He has a fair background team behind him as well now.
He does.
With who's Gavin Keary's in it anyway.
Greg Kennedy.
Yeah. Jeez.
Nigel Murray, Alan Curley, Kevin Harrell, Shane Cusack. So it's well stacked. And in fairness to them, they were very vocal. I would probably say, and I did say it to Christy Brown, who was looking after the line after the game, that there was fellas getting away with a little bit of murder, where I got chinned a little bit kind of harshly before in the county final. But anyway, story for another day.
You were from Gary Spillane, TJ.
Yeah. What I will say is, I thought it was a really high quality game. It did ebb and flow as county finals go. just a really, really enjoyable game to be at, and just to be kind of sensitive. It was exciting. It went right down to the wire. In fairness to Thomas's, first of all, like, always going to be pressure on them. They were favourites. They're going for 5 in a row. They've been on the road a long time. They didn't make a good start. And I suppose they had that added probably negative for them, in that Shane Cooney is just back from injury, so he wasn't able to start. He did come on at halftime. And they also lost James Regan before the game to some form of a hamstring injury during the week. So he wasn't able to start either. So 2 experienced central players missing for them would definitely been a loss. On the other side, in fairness, Shane Morgan wasn't able to start for Loughrea. But
Shane Cooney was able to come on at half-time, Teach, was he?
He came on at halftime. He's just back. He's had an injury all year. Like, he was away for a while, so he's just filtering his way back. And I'm not sure exactly, we'll say, what the decision around it. He probably wasn't able for 60 minutes, so they made a decision to bring him on rather than start him. And I suppose go back to management. That's a call that everybody has to make. In fairness, Mark Hoffield has come in at centre back, and I mean, in that area of the field where Shane is, and he's played well. He set up a brilliant score just before half time. But I'd say the Thomases would like to have maybe those players on the field. You know yourself, on county final day, you'd like to have your big, strong, experienced players, which is what they are. But Loughrea made a brilliant start. Obviously, they've been unbeaten all year, Loughrea, whereas Thomas had 1 game last. So Thomas's favourites, pressure on Loughrea, I suppose, to know could they live with this St. Thomas's team. And they started brilliantly. They owned the first quarter. And here's a name, I suppose, maybe for people's notebooks into looking at Galway teams for 2023 is Martin McManus. He's been brilliant inside forward. They play with 2 up top. Jamie Ryan drifts out the field. Martin McManus finished with 4 points from play. I think he scored something like 324 from play in the championship to date, but a really, really effective inside forward. So from Loughrea's point of view, he was on the ball early, getting a couple of scores. They won the first quarter, but in fairness to Thomas's, into the breeze, they toughed it out, and at half time they were 2 points down, 12 points to 10. And you see with the wind coming in the second half that everything was in their favour. But again, credit to Loughrea, they got themselves back in front at the quarter stage. They were 3 points up, and they seemed to be going well. Now, they did get a red card in 19 minutes in the second half. Dylan Shaughnessy was sent off. It was for a second yellow.
Is that Nigel's son, TJ?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think so. But he got sent off for a second yellow, which means he will be available for the next day. Yeah. I have to say, from the stand, I didn't see it. There wasn't much of a reaction, but the referee showed a second yellow. He must have seen something and sent him off. And from there on, then, Loughrea managed to get that 4-point lead, which looked like it was going to see him down the stretch. But then up pops Éanna Burke for a brilliant goal, well set up by Damien McLean. Éanna Burke was excellent, possibly man of the match in the day with 1 goal and 4 points from play. Really, really good. And Thomas has found themselves somehow in injury time, 1 point up. I will say 2 points in the game. When it came back level first, Loughrea got a brilliant score to put him back in front with Jamie Ryan. Really, one of as good a scores I've seen worked in any game this year. Then Thomas has got a couple of points, got themselves in front again going down the stretch. And in fairness to Tiernan Killeen, you possibly have seen the equaliser. He's a young lad. I know he's on the Galway squad, and another name for the future. In fairness to him, he was very effective running the field. He had the guts to go for that out on the sideline. It was 4 minutes. There was 3 minutes in the clock. It was into 4 minutes. And in fairness to the referee, it was marginal. Could he have blown it? He possibly could. But there was maybe a little bit of a delay on a free, which you could say, if you were nitpicking, that maybe he could have. It was Loughrea who were taking the free, actually, and they kind of maybe took 30 or 40 seconds out of the game. But he allowed that extra minute. And in fairness to Tiernan Killeen, he popped up. Probably would have been harsh if Loughrea didn't. I don't think they would have deserved to lose it on the day the way they played. They played good hurling. They played nice, fast-flowing hurling, in fairness to them. But in saying that, Thomas's, they will feel that maybe it wasn't their best performance on the day, but they didn't lose. And that's what real good teams and champions do. And the 5 in a row is still alive.
And TJ, is that the 5th final in a row that they haven't conceded a goal? That's some stat. I thought I read that somewhere.
Oh. Yeah. Defensively, very, very, really strong again. Just have real leaders back there, unbelievable. But I didn't.
Another funny one of those is since we were last on is lads are telling me here that Ballier have now won 4 senior championships, winning their first in 16. You know, and we'll get on to that game in Munster in a sec, but. Niall Deasy has gotten man of the match in all 4 county final wins. It's not a fair stat, isn't it? Fair sign of consistency on the big day. Like, fella, they couldn't show up on the big day, and you can rely on him to show up.
That's some achievement, yeah. And actually, would you believe I happened to be on a stag there recently down in Killarney, and on the following morning, Sunday morning, I just hopped into the Fáilte. Do you know the way people would normally go into the Fáilte on your way home from Killarney? And I happened to bump into David Clifford's father, great character, and actually a listener of the podcast as well, in fairness. And he was very complimentary towards you, Dalo, and to the people you have on. And he was saying that David Clifford...
Big Fossa fans now we are.
Big Fossa fans, right? I think David, in all the county finals between the senior final, Fossa won the junior final and Ireland final. I think this year David's got man of the match in all of them as well. And in fairness, he's not one of those fathers now who blows a trumpet. David Clifford, Paddy Clifford. So unbelievable. So they've had a fantastic year. And for Fossa, he said years ago, for them now to be climbing, he said it was unthinkable. So I said they're on a Munster club train. I think they're coming to Limerick. I think this coming week. I think they're playing.
Okay.
Might be
they are, I think, yeah. Shemmy Flanagan's club, no?
Shemmy Flanagan's club, yeah. So it's an interesting one there for them. So, but yeah, incredible for Niall Deasy as well, just to go back on that. And yeah, it's a phenomenal achievement. But
would you say like it's obviously a massive display by Loughrea? I'm actually giving up doing my little 10 or 20 accum of a Sunday on these games, because the last weekend I did, it was the Clare County final. I had Ballyea. Now they were lucky; they were 3 points down going into injury time. I had Kilmacud to win, and as my triple, I'd Killadangan to win in tip. And where the referee got the minute and 50 seconds to give Kilruan. Now, delighted to see Kilruan going on the home of Glengainer, who done so much for us. But a minute and 50 over the 3 minutes to get a free in. To level it, and all home happy, and big crowd again for the Tip J. I just declared and I did it again last weekend. I had, as it turned out anyway, another match went against me, but I had Ballyea up anyway, and I was listening to the Galway Bay on my way into Limerick, and I said, that has to be it now, when Thomas's went ahead and the 3 minutes were up. But no, the ref decided it still keep going. But anyway, draws.
But come here to me, Dalo. Yeah. But does it come back now to the countdown clock? Do we have to introduce the countdown clock in GA? Because to be fair to the ladies' football, they have it spot on.
I'm not having this conversation with you. You were ranting on there about rugby there for about the last 2 years, about VAR and different things, right? Do you see rugby? It's gone like into, what is it, about nearly an hour and a half aside now in rugby between all the decisions you're taking.
The countdown.
I watched some of the game there on Saturday night. That game is gone, man. That game is gone. Reading some of the stuff on Twitter. I felt like kicks the ball up the field. What skill? He kicked the ball straight back to the opposition, and we got what skill, right? And we got 3 or 4 of the fellas, right? They fall down on top of the ball at the breakdown, right? And I'm hearing the commentator saying, brilliantly skillful play around the breakdown. Just because you fall down on top of the ball. Stop, man. Stop. Let's go back to the county final.
He had a big autumn series, Dom. We are still number one, the team of us, TJ.
Yeah, team of us. Right.
Exactly.
Right. Don't talk.
And TJ, I was actually saying that the countdown clock is in the ladies' football, TJ, right? I'm not talking about the rugby. And very soon, TJ, the ladies' football and the camogie will be part of the whole GA family. So we got to start learning from the ladies, like, you know.
Marco, there's very little wrong with our game. Very little. We have 1 or 2 small, tidy up things to be doing. We need to keep fellas like you and other people with your technology and your VAR away from the game and live in the moment and go to the game. We have a beautiful product. Leave it alone. No, Dalo, to go back to your question.
Yeah.
To be fair to Loughrea, they because of Thomas's history, Thomas's were favourites and rightly so going to the final, but they're pat to the final. They had won all their group games. They took out Turlockmore in the quarter final. They beat Clarenbridge in the semi-final. So they were unbeaten all year. So in fairness to them, they are doing an awful lot right. They have a lovely style of play. As I said, Jamie Ryan, who people know, he drifts out the field from that full forward line. They play with 2 men up top. They have a very defined way they play. They move the ball mainly through the lines, look for the boys up top. Martin McManus is a brilliant out ball. So there's an awful lot of positives about them. So it will be tricky. And even looking ahead to the replay on Sunday, like Thomas's will have to maybe find that little couple of inches improvement. I've no doubt that they will. I'm hoping maybe from a Thomas's point of view that the likes of Shane and maybe James Regan can start, which will definitely be a help. And then they might have more input off the bench. But I suppose, look, county final day, we all know the challenge is there for both of them. Loughrea will feel maybe coming away from the game that, look, we're still unbeaten all year. I mean, it looked like as if it was gone for a second, and then Tiernan Killeen got to score, but all to play for, I would say. But great match, good crowd there, good atmosphere. Yeah, just couldn't speak high enough of it, and I'll be at the replay.
Yeah. And great rivalry, obviously, the two clubs.
Right next door to each other. Right next door to each other. So, like, the next club over from St. Thomas's is the bridge into Loughrea there. Like, so an awful lot of, I would say, the Thomas's lads would have gone to school in Loughrea, and I think even right now, like Johnny Cohen and David Burke would have been obviously midfield partners there for years with Galway, and they teach in the same school in Loughrea, and obviously are good buddies and stuff like. So there's a very tight knit and would know each other really, really well there between those two teams. And I suppose from Loughrea's point of view, they'd love to stop the 5 in a row, and from Thomas's point of view, they'd love to just get it over the line now and get a 5 in a row. What an achievement. And like, look, we're in an era where we're talking about money in sport and numbers, and there probably is a migration maybe to teams maybe improving where there's huge numbers. Yet a team like St. Thomas's continue to buck the trend. It's only really a really, really small rural place.
Yeah, no doubt about it, and the best of luck to them both. Next Sunday, if he could get away up there, have a little doggy running at the weekend, and if he doesn't win Saturday, he won't be going anywhere Sunday. You're thunder and lightning here in Clare today, lads. Did you hear that one?
I did.
Yeah. I thought there was a stool was moving in the bar.
Oh, McShay, you out there? Jesus, tell you, it's down top for us. If I blow up anyway, you'll know I went happy and quickly. Double day of Munster Club on Sunday, lads. Munster Senior Club semi-finals. Fair play to the powers that be. They actually, if you now had to organise yourself and being in a good and early, got your spot, you could actually see both games if you wanted to, which I did. Now, I did a bit of skullduggery, and I gave Kieran Keaton a quick ring and gave Mike O'Riordan a quick ring to know could I park in both convenient car parks behind the goal in the Gaelic grounds and in the Clyster car park, as we call it, in Ennis. So at least I was able. And I actually, when Brendan O'Connell got the point, I just made a run to the car and I said, I'll get the last minute if there's a minute even in it, because the time was up, I thought, on Clare FM. And God, Sil O'Connor and Tommy Gilfoyle were going belubas about the awarding of a 65 that could have levelled it, and it went wide. I must say I didn't see it now, but I was sorry for young Cunningham for it to go wide, because for him, and I'd be hoping Ballyade would win, obviously, but for young Cunningham, I thought he was outstanding. I thought that trio, there's the rain after the thunder now, banging down, but the trio of Ben O'Connor, Toomey, who unfortunately had a couple of wides, but what a work rate, and he looks a county man for me. And Cunningham, I think, is really stepping up to the level. It was such a pity for Ben to miss that last one. It was a very tough one in the conditions, because we had 2 or 3 very, very heavy showers. But enjoyable game. There's been a lot of mileage on the Cusack Park pitch. It has held up very well. It's still great, still good and dry. You take a stud, all right, but the grass is that tiny bit longer than what I drove in then. I was pitch side at the Gaelic ground almost. It's incredible. Only second match played on the field. So it was always going to be a bit slower, tougher, dour type of hurling. Yet I really enjoyed both games. I thought actually the second game, Darragh Sullivan was raving about it. There should be videos of it. I actually thought it was a great battle. Some of the tackling, the intensity, Colm Lyons letting it go. But I didn't think it was a classic by any means. Classic hurling at times, classic scores, the goals. I mean, all 4 goals were beautifully taken. 2 bullets and 2 kind of placed to the corner, rolled in low. So, really enjoyed Ennis. And I would say Ballyade not going as good as they could be going. Relied on Tony, really came in up with a 15 minutes of huge play. Got 2 massive points from play, took over the free taking, and that probably got him over the line. Another day of Cork knocked out first round in Munster, Mark, but I would say probably you'd have to say green shoots with the way this young Bears team went at it. Like,
100%, yeah. Like, fairness, you have a good bit of the ground cover there, Dalo. Like, to play for in the main 50 minutes with 14 men and to still get a chance, I suppose, to draw the game, which would have been an injustice in one hand because it was never a 65, and this is where TV evidence and VAR would get rid of all that kind of stuff. You only have one or two incidents in a game whereby you will need the help of the video analysis, and it would have taken away all the hassle there. I suppose justice was served in one respect insofar that the ball went wide. But I've no doubt the young Ben Cunningham will come back from that, and his star is rising and it is shining bright. And like, he deservedly got the man of the match in the county final in horrendous conditions. And I think, as George said, he was very proud of him after the game. And I've no doubt when there's a father-son combination and your son comes up and he scores 4 points in play in the county final in a local city derby, first time in 40 years between the Bears and the Rockies, it's a very, very proud day for any dad. I think I look, the sending off it a little bit, but it certainly wasn't the winning or losing of the game. It just put an extra a stone of lead on the back of a jockey, I suppose, in some respects, if you were to play for 14 men for that length of time. But I thought the Bears played magnificently, Anthony, and the aforementioned players, Toomey, Ben O'Connor. For me, Ben O'Connor was by far and away the most outstanding player on the pitch on Sunday. The amount of possessions he had, he got scores, his physicality. And what people don't realise is this kid is done. He's leaving stuff next year. So he has a massive future. Rugby is probably his first sport at this moment in time. From a Cork point of view.
Any updates for us?
No, I'd say 99% certain he will be giving rugby his first allegiance, I'd say, in 2023. And he's leaving cert, obviously, as well. But he still has a huge potential future in front of him from a hurling perspective. I suppose it's the quote Ray Rochford, like the wall ball in your hand all the time, like, you know. So if he keeps hurling away, you know, in the background and keeps his skill levels up, he'll never have a problem with physicality or speed or pace. So that's a given. It's just his skill levels will have to be kept up to date. So if he doesn't make the rugby, or if he decides to go GA into the future, he'd be a massive asset to any club or any county. So we wish him the best of luck. But going back to the game itself, there was a calamity, obviously, in the first 10 minutes. I think the goal that was conceded by the Bears, they'd be really disappointed afterwards. It was a scrappy enough goal. Ball fell out of his hand and he pulled on it. And it says Shane Hurling goes to be disappointed that he left it in. Then the next puck out, Cahir McCallan gets sent off. So they were two big blows to the Bears in that period of time. I thought the Bears came back into the game, obviously still weren't leading at halftime, having played with this very, very strong breeze. They missed a couple of opportunities, as you aforementioned there. And Pádraig Buggy on one occasion was going through, could have tapped the ball over the bar, saw Ben Cunningham was making a break, was undecided as to what to do. Then he flopped the hand pass and they got nothing from it. But like tight margins, there was 265s conceded during the course of the game. Billy Hennessy knocked one out and Shane Hurley knocked one out in the second half. Possibly balls that could have, should have been cleared, or certainly don't panic. I thought the Bears showed a little bit of inexperience, I think. And I think this is where the experience on the Ballyhay side came out of it, because I thought Jamie Burns at fullback had a really good, positive game, the same as Owen Keane in the corner. But the fact that Jamie was marking Tony Kelly for a good bit of it and did really well. But Kelly, to be fair, that 5-minute period between the 44th and the 49th minute, there was 4 points from play. The Bears hit the lead. Kelly brought him back. Cunningham had another one. And I don't know, it was a Massey Gavin, who I thought had a fantastic game for Ballyhay overall. Play, yeah. Massive contribution in a low-scoring game. And that kind of 5 or 6 minute period there in the middle of the second half kind of decided where the game was going. But just from a Cork point of view, it's still a long time before we have got to a Munster final and winning a Munster final at club level. But I'd say the Bears, if they can go back to back with counties next year, and this point I made last year, Ballygunner, Ballyhay, St. Thomas's, right? They get a panel of players together and they keep them going, and they know how to get the job done. And I think Ballyhay exemplified that on Sunday. They knew how to get the game done and get it won. And I think there's great credit to them. We were talking about them all year, Anthony. I think you would have kind of had a view that they weren't going brilliant all year, but they were getting over the line. They know how to get over the line. You know, the before-mentioned DC, Gary Brennan, right? Like the amount of hardship that these fellas take and give during the course of the game. And I'd have to say, I was a bit, I was looking at Michael Kennedy, the referee, and I was saying, was he being happy? I thought he had a really good game, as it turns out. I think the sending off situation was on the advice of the linesman. You'd always love to go back the day after, Anthony, and ask the referee, could you give us your assessment now, having seen it on video? Would you have made the same decision? But this is these are, and I'm going to reiterate it, I don't think the sending off decided the result of the match, right? I think, over the course of the game, it is, but I suppose TJ, the Bears were in front, with 10 minutes to go. They had hit the front.
I think it would have had to have an influence in the game. To touch on Ballyhay for 1 second, like their records of winning games, tight games by just one score or just marginal over a long period of time is some strong mentality from the team's point of view, isn't it?
It is, and they have so many strong characters, Tej, just right from the back. Peter Casey's having a great year. Who's beside him? Paul Flanagan is beside him, and Brandon O'Connell just called up with Clare now after being called up by Lohan from 3-4 years of brilliant play at club level for Ballyhay, and he got the winning point. And then you go to the half-back line then, and you look at Jack Brown. They try and sit him in the pocket. They sit him as close to the full back line as they can, and it's up to teams whether they want to shove up on him or not. And then who they hadn't last year in this fixture, they hadn't Kelly either, but they hadn't Garrod O'Connell, Gudgie, as he's known as up here, who was outstanding again on Sunday, just a dog. He's in the thick of everything. And I know there was a lot of controversy about did Jack make too much of the belt he got in the head when the Conor Callahan was thrown away to Hurley. And I don't know. I thought he got a bit of a shock, to be honest. But we saw Gudgie tackling Brian Hayes near the end of it, and Brian, there might have been a free in or free out or whatever it was, but Brian went clutching his head as well, and it wasn't any contact with the head, and threw away the ball. And it is something, as Mark said, that maybe refs will have to look at early next year and just say, look, this is going to be stamped out like they did with lots of things, So, but they have a lot of very cool guys. A lot of them look a bit leggy to me, TJ. A lot of them, Pierce Lillis will say, would be very, very important for them at centre forward. County footballer, Gary Brennan, obviously. But Pierce, was in the intermediate final, very disappointed to lose that with Coraclare. You had a couple who play with them, Stan Lenine, Martin O'Leary, from Kilmehel. They got relegated from the relegation final into senior hurling or senior football. They've had long years outside of even with Ballyhay. That's 1 week with their football and back. That's the way it operates, was there isn't hurling back here in West Clare. And a lot of teams were in a lot of games that play for them now. And I'd say for the 2 weeks, I'd say, Adrian O'Brien will be back on board now as well, because he had to step back for the game, obviously. Right, yeah. It was the strength and conditioning for both coaches, the Kimmellock man and Adrian will be back on board now. I'd say they'll take it nice and easy, Ballyhay, and come. They'll be written off by everybody, and they'll just try and come as fresh as they can. Hope that Tony has one of those real Tony days, that the Mossy Gavins and the Griffins and one or two more like that, and DC has a slightly better day, just off for some reason the other day, shooting wise. Tough day, as I said, to hit them, and hope that comes good. But they've an awful lot of experience in the team, and that's, I think, why they don't do panic. They've been in an Ireland club final before, they've won a Munster before, and they just feel everything's a bonus. Keep going here. We leak it out. If we have to go to extra time, we go to it. And normally that whole team nearly wins, So they know how tight it was. They do know how tight it was.
Can I ask you a question? Just you mentioned there that a lot of the lads are playing with football clubs. So is Ballyhay, is that an amalgamation of players coming in from different football clubs in the community, or what? What's the story, or how the team got together?
Ballyea rather than Ballyhay. It's not the crowd near Charleville. It's Ballyea.
Yeah.
There's no H in the end of it, like. But they're the same parish as myself. Clarecastle and Killowen is the name of the parish. But there was 2 hurling clubs always in the parish. We were the senior hurling club. They were the junior. And lots of their players would have come in and played with us. The 2 Sheedies, Stephen, as we often mention him on the show, he's a Ballyea man, would have done his underage hurling with Ballyea and came in then to play senior. Other guys, Paddy Quinn, Brian Hayes, Donald Kelly, Tony's father, won back-to-back championships with the club, 86 and 87. But then slowly but surely, Ballyea were getting stronger because they're 4 or 5 miles on the western side of Ennis, and new houses were being built, and it was a lovely place to live, really, for the suburbs of Ennis, and they got stronger, and they won a junior A on their own, and they went intermediate, and all of a sudden they won an intermediate on their own. So we 2 senior clubs in the parish, and I suppose the last man I'd say we asked for in any form for Ballyea would he consider coming over, because you could play whichever one of the 2 teams under parish law would have been Tony Griffin, I'd swear. And Griff said no, I was going to stay at Ballyea. And I'd say Griff turned it, really. Once Griff said no, he was going to stay in, and they got stronger and stronger. We beat them well in the county final 2003, my last county final playing, and we beat them easy enough. Like, they weren't strong yet. They had Griff, they had a good team. They had Paddy O'Connell that time, Griff, and a few like that. But they got stronger and stronger. And then there's no football you see in West Clare. And then, Clare had won 95, 97 and got to the final in 02. And then came along and won in 13. And, loads of kids wanted to hurl, and the structures aren't really here for them. There's little bits and pieces with the schools. Kilkee try a bit, Kilmehel. But then when it gets to adult level, or a lot of them just go directly to Ballyea now. Kilmaley would profit a fair bit as well from it. They'd get a lot of the lads from the Milltown, Malbay, Quilty side of things.
How far away is Kilmaley from Ballyea?
Well, like, I'm
roughly
for me here now, I've customers here, great customers here in the pub, and I'm I suppose 18 miles from Ballyea, and I've regulars here that bring their young fellas over to Ballyea every Saturday morning, and in the summer every maybe Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. They might carpool with a couple of more neighbours, but that's the scenario. Yeah, there's probably about 7 clubs represented, but it's only one club though. Ballyea would still be feature on their own, but if these lads want to hurl at a serious level, there's nowhere else for them to go. You have to go to your nearest club. That was brought in all right. So it would really have to be then, if you were coming in from this side towards Ennis, it would have to be Ballyea you'd meet first here. If you're a bit further up the coast from where I am, and you head towards Ennis, the first hurling club you'd meet would probably be Kilmaley. So a lot of the Conor Cleary is a Milltown Malbay man, the Clare fullback. But Conor now went to Flannan's like that and started hurling with Kilmaley, plays his football. His brother is Owen Cleary, the great footballer, captain of the Clare footballers, and Owen would have played minor in that, but the football got very serious for Owen at county level, and he decided to stop playing hurling. So it's not rocket science, but that's what happens. And sometimes people find it hard to understand,
But is Conor Cleary then playing is he playing hurling with Kilmaley? So Kilmaley have a hurling club, have they?
Yeah, they're just a hurling club. They don't have a football section at all. So,
right, okay.
And there was always the thing with Lissy Casey over the road here, where Fanny O'Dee's pub is their senior football. Some of their lads would always have gone to Kilmaley and vice versa. That has died off a fair bit. A lot of their lads now hurl with Ballyea. I suppose since Ballyea became really prominent from, 12, and great minor teams with Kelly back around 10, 11, and those sort of players, the Gudgies and the Jack Browns and all these fellas. So, yeah, that's the way that works now. They do well, but I tell you, I've give awful credit to Robbie Hogan. Sorry, just to finish that, the manager, Robbie Hogan, and he has been involved in 3 to 4 victories, and to manage that, like, with them going completely back, like whatever what the Bars would say, lads. And I know the 3 Cahalans now are an exception, going off down to West Cork, but like, he has to say good luck on a Sunday. Will say to Pierce Lillis, to Marty Leary, to Stan Lenine, to Tomas Kelly, all the lads that are going back playing with the Gales or Cora Clare or Kilmehel or even further back or wherever they go, Clondigad, and they give their complete commitment in Lissy Casey to that football club for that week, play the big game. Right. He gets them back in on the Tuesday in some shape or form and has to have them ready to take on maybe a 6 Mile Bridge, a Cracklow, an Airog, a Clarecastle, whoever at senior level on Sunday. And they've been doing that year in, year out. And we're on about the split season and that, but these boys have been at that Pierce Lillis would have played every game with Clare, I'd say, league and championship in football this year, which was a long year because the Clare footballers wound up in the last 8, beaten by Derry up in Croke Park, and straight back to his own club, Clare, who had just been relegated, and they wanted to bounce back straight up. Very proud football club, and he played every game for them, every game for Ballyea. To the point where he looks a bit flat now. So I'd say Adrian O'Brien might be saying, Pierce, you take it easy there now for 10 days, and we'll get the body tip-tape.
And see, you've tempted Adrian O'Brien across the border as well in the Lohan has, which is a good appointment for Clare as well, I would say, Dalo, because his history and record with teams, and obviously with the Limerick footballers especially, like he knows his beans when it comes to S&C, for sure.
100% TJ. It's a huge sign, and I mean what he has done with the Bars in Ballyea this year for Brian to be able to get in, and it's no harm shake up your backroom team too. I think we were on earlier about the players. I think it's good to shake up your backroom team as well, and getting a fella of that caliber. And be a lot of talk, and most of it be soft talk around the county, that maybe the 2 Limerick games last year took it out of Clare, because traditionally, strength and conditioning wise, we'd be behind Limerick because they're at it since the academy and all that sort of, I don't know. And we didn't play as well against Wexford, and we really didn't play at all against Kilkenny. So maybe there's something in that, but Adrian has a nice bit to work with as well. I think, the form of young Mark Rogers and a few more lads. Aidan McCarthy was outstanding hurling and football as well with his club. So I think that's a big coup for Brian to get him in.
Yeah, it's an important role as well to get right this time of the year, especially to have fellas like we spoke, I think maybe during the year, about getting your timing right, and some counties did and some counties didn't, or maybe he was using an excuse, but to have somebody with his experience. And as I said, if you look at the Limerick footballers over the last number of years, Adrian with Billy Lee, like, he did an incredible job. So I would say it's a good coup, and Adrian's a top S&C coach now, I would have to say. Yeah,
it's where it's at,
and just, And just, Anthony, before you just go away from that, do a lot of those clubs then have underage hurling, Anthony? So, like, are they bringing it to a certain stage, or they just have no underage hurling? Do they do their underage hurling then in Ballyea as well?
They do, yeah, and mostly now.
Right.
Yeah, Kilkee Balaha definitely, but that's very far back, Kilkee is a long way back. Like, Kilkee is another 20 miles from me, like, they have definitely, and Michael O'Neill, be Shane's father, Michael stalwart Clareman, has a holiday home in Kilkee, and is always in and out to the school, and they complete in a thing called the West Clare Board competitions, and they'd compete maybe in the Clare Junior C competitions, Clonbunny and Kilkee Balaha, a couple of clubs from back around here. But in terms of serious stuff, in terms of trying to play under 14A, most of them hit for Kilmaley or Ballyea. Yeah, it's a fair commitment being a parent.
Yeah, incredible. I think that's just phenomenal to think the parents are bringing the kids to that distance. I'm just surprised that the football clubs themselves don't try and bring up an underage hurling team with them, and like start at the lowest grade, and even if there's 11 aside, get hurling going. And I'm just a bit surprised, to be honest, because it'll be allowed to die out. Like, that's the reality. Like,
yeah, some schools. When I came back here first in 1999, local priest up the road, Father Peter Loughlin, and myself got a team to go on, called it Kilmahil. Started off under 12D, I suppose. Then we went 14s D, and we won it. And now we had lads like David Tuberty, the great Clare footballer from Doonbeg. We had lads from Shannon Gales. We had lads from Kilmahil itself, Cora Clare. All around the place, Coolmeen, and it went on from there, that team, and we wound up winning an under 16C, beating traditional clubs like Aina in the final, and lots of traditional clubs, and so we went minor B then, and we lost a semi-final of a minor B, but we were getting kind of more screwed for space and places to train, and pressured in when lads were, of course, they were being called on to their senior or junior intermediate teams. So we famously sat down with a few people who had West Clare hurling at their heart, and we went to a West Clare board meeting. I wasn't a delegate. Carmel Coughlin, the teacher in Kilmahil, was a delegate with another delegate from there. I think there was 12 delegates and the chairman, and they went into a room, and I proposed that we look for a bit of land, centrally, somewhere nearby, that would be easy for Coraclare, Kilmahel, that team really being the essence of it, and that we'd attract future players, maybe even from Kilrush. Now, Kilrush would have had their own underage team at the time as well, as would Kilkee, but that we would try and form a West Clare hurling club. Call it West Clare Gales, call it... Well, whatever you want to call it. No, well, it would be a club, just that you would...
A club, right. All right,
not
okay,
interfere...
Right.
We would not interfere. I went into the meeting. This is way back around 2005 now. It's hard to remember the exact details. We went into the meeting. I explained to them what I was on about. So I had made contact to Crow Park. I had made contact to Munster Council. Grants probably would be an issue, but they'd do their best for us and would really... We had a great cause, really, to spread hurling in the county. We would try and get our own facilities, as in a pitch and dressing rooms, and use it specifically just for hurling. We wouldn't be asking lads who had football training to come hurling with us. We do the week before our hurling, but I'll never forget sitting in the Quilty Tavern having a pint with Father Peter, and Carmel came out and she was the colour of my computer screen here now. She was like a ghost, and she said, lads, we lost 7-6. It was 6-all, and the cast and vote was given. So we adjourned to a great hurling man, Christy Carty. He has a pub in Coor. He'd be Clonbunny up near Miltown Malbay. So I said, come on, Peter, we'll adjourn to Christie's, drink a few pints, and lament that's my last involvement with West Clare hurling. I said, and 'twas. Stuck to my guns. And I think they had a team the following year, maybe the year after, Kilmahel, but then it just died and it's just started going. Ballyea benefited a lot from it now, but it's a pity. It was a great chance. I have no doubt now, if you look at the Conor Cleese who got them, if you look at the Pierce Lillises, the Stan Lenines, Martin Leary's, some of the lads I'd have started with that under 14 team would still be trucking away now back around here, and they'd only be about 32, 33. Tomas Downs. Tomas Downs was a sub for Rogue in the county final. He went to Rogue when it broke up. His father had a connection there. I've no doubt, and I've rabbited on about this for too long now, sorry, but we would have been senior on our own at this stage, and I offered to train the team and chair the club for the first year at least, if we got things up and running, and it might have taken a year or two, but that was the end of it anyway.
Sorry for asking the question, but I tell you now, that was brilliant, Dalo, how you've just described what's happened, because I wasn't aware of any of that now,
Yeah, I could have one or two details now, could have gone, that was the gist of it, Mark. But the 6 lads and the chairman that voted against it anyway, I hope you're still getting your All-Ireland tickets, lads. Hopefully they're coming in the post for you every year.
Elsa, let it go.
Let it go, Elsa. How do you let it go? Yeah, there's an Irish Elsa now, isn't there? But anyways, look. That's NSAD's. Ballyea get through. Good club. They'd be written off, though, lads, because I was getting into the graded grounds, lads. I was at Limerick final. I had closely watched Ballygunner all last year and again against Kilruan. I was getting in there to see that because I thought Na Piercy might even turn them over, to be honest. And at half-time, I was certain they were turning them over because the space they were creating in the Ballygunner defence, the way Peter Casey was moving, the way William Henn was moving inside, Adrian Breen, the runners coming from outside, I felt were savaging them in the work rate then around the middle with William and all Conor Boylan going out into the war zone. And Ballygunner looked like they hadn't the answers for them in the first half, struggling at the other end. The goal was against the run of play, let's face it. But of course, Desi buried it. It was just a couple of little things coming up to half time. I know it was 5 points. I think Mike Foley had to go off injured, an enforced injury. Mike Casey was carrying a leg, lads, walking past me. Dr. Dave Boylan had his arm around him. He was definitely carrying a leg at that stage. And we all know Mike had to go off subsequently with what looked a more serious injury. Now, we all hope, I don't know if you have any news on that, TJ, but hopefully for Mike, he gets a bit of luck on this occasion. But at half-time, I just felt if Mike Casey's not right, lads, coming back out here down a defender already, and if Ballygunner can get a couple of quick scores. But in actual fact, the 2 chances they had that they dropped short, which is criminal altogether, not to put them wide, and who, of course, got brilliant restarts going straight away. And what happened was they got 2 frees down the other end, and all of a sudden 5 became 3. And then Mike, before he went off, if I'm summing it up for you now, you can feel free to jump in and say, but Mike got a rush of blood to the head, lads, and jumped up for that high ball. Why? I don't know. Young Fitzgerald just stayed down, picked it up, rolled it into the corner of the net. As we'd always say, keep it low, you have a good chance. But the game was really on then. And then Ballygunner, their work rate, lads, had gone through the roof. Their 2 midfielders, Heaney and Sheehan, like Sheehan 4 from play, Pádraig Mahoney everywhere, Peter Hogan, I felt. Work rate, mania. He was everywhere. He was like Owen Larkin in his heyday. And then I thought at the other end of the field, Coughlin was Coughlin at full back, like a dog. Philip Mahoney sat that bit deeper, Shane O'Sullivan beside him, and they took over the game. And like to say that Piercy could only get 4 points at half time in the second half, someone would laugh at you, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I only got I was listening to Milan and Parry Lodge coming down the road from Galway, but I watched the full game on Sunday night. The work rate from both teams, Dalo, at different times, and I know there's clips there on social media just outlining the work rate and the tackling and the hunting, like 2 teams at the peak of their powers. And look, it's very hard to have complaints. It appears you will look to those couple of chances, and when you get beaten, you always look at the game a little bit different, and you're looking for it, like we had scored this and scored that. In the first half, like Pádraig Mahoney had sent a couple of wides from play and from frees, like, so they would look back if it hadn't gone their way. But 2 teams, like, this is probably the top level of club hurling in the country. That's the very, 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 very top bar. And look, the Piercy just came up a little bit short, but credit Ballygunner, being 5 points down. Again, mentality and the resolve to get their game going and get their work rate going. Young Fitzgerald is a big plus for them into the forwards. Looks the making of a real classy forward now, in fairness, and going to take a bit of watching going forward. But the work rate and the energy. On Mike Casey, I don't know for sure. I know he went for a scan, and I'm sure that they're waiting for the result of that. I like talking to a couple of the lads the last couple of days. They're optimistic that it's not the cruciate. That's nothing confirmed. They're hoping that it's not. It is the same knee, the right knee, unfortunately, but they are hoping that knee has caused him a bit of trouble in the past. So it might be just maybe a bit of cartilage or something. So we're all hopeful that it's not the cruciate, and that maybe he just take a bit of time out and a bit of rehab and get going again. So that's to be confirmed.
Yeah, but I tell you, didn't Ballygunner show some resolve, in fairness to them now? And you know, a lot of people would slag off Waterford hurling down through the years that, you know, that they have no battle and that when it comes down to it, they'll never get over the line. But what Ballygunner showed in the All-Ireland final last year, number 1, but I thought in the match against the Piercy on Sunday was just incredible resolve. Like, there's no doubt the Piercy were in the driving seat on Sunday at half time. Turning the play with whatever bit of a breeze I think was there was probably with them, and you'd have to say that Ballygunner dug in, and to turn it to be 5 points down, to win by 5, and to hold the Piercy to 4 points was an incredible display. Pádraig Mahoney rolled back the years, 13 points. I think he got 7 from play. Like, that's just a performance for the ages. And as TJ mentioned, he missed 3 at the start of the game that he normally would get. So that shows the quality guy he is as well, to be having a bad day and to be able to turn it around. So again, he's played over 60 minutes. Management, don't panic just because a fella hits a couple of wides. Don't be giving him the curly finger, like, you know, you just stick with him.
The scientists behind the game too will love, as the puck out strategy from Ballygunner. There was the marginal differences around the ruck. Pádraig didn't seem to engage the ruck there around that line, and the rest of the boys, they knew straight away. He reminded me of a guy basically when the ruck forms in rugby and a guy sits in the pocket getting ready for the drop goal. Like, Pádraig was always in the right place. They popped the ball to him, but he nailed them. Yeah, brilliant performance. But strategically into the second half, Ballygunner's game, they seemed to have exactly the way they wanted. They had their spare man, they had the full back line protected. Stocky seemed to be getting all the right calls in terms of the puck outs, short, moving them. So tactically, you'd have to give him a lot of credit too. Actually, is he back in the Waterford squad, or was Fitzy looking for him, or is that confirmed, or is that still kind of up in the air?
Don't know that, Teach. I don't know that.
Yeah, okay.
There was time. I presume you bloody would be.
Yeah.
I don't think he's back, lads, is the information I have. But TJ, in the middle of the second half,
he's probably back.
Downsy got a free that he would be disappointed that he missed, and Peter Casey missed a handy point straight afterwards. And you're just talking about the psychological thing that goes on in fellas' heads, right? You've Lewandowski last night playing soccer last night with a penalty. One of the most experienced strikers in the game failed to convert it like in an in-all draw. So it just shows you the psychology and the pressure that's on players when they go out in the field to play. And we never give credit to players that are able to stand up to that pressure in the games. And like these are only amateur lads, but like it does play in their minds. And during that period of time, the Piercing needed a couple of scores just to get themselves back into the game. And it's like a boost for the opposition when handy scores get missed. I think Ballygunner pushed on again, and do you know what?
I
suppose
I do agree with you that free and 10 minutes to go was important to bring it back to one. But the way Ballygunner finished, you'd have to say they just looked impressive and definitely looked a stronger team in the finish. Like,
do you think that Ballygunner are not getting the credit for the All-Ireland victory last year, that the fact that they got a last-minute goal to win it, that is there a bit in the back of them saying to themselves, look, we need to go back-to-back to prove that we are the best, or one of the best club teams in the country in this era? Do you think in the back of their mind?
I presume they're using that themselves, Dan. I'd say Darragh Sullivan is using that, but to say they didn't get the credit, geez, from the likes of us, I think we... I was getting in that Limerick Road, even if there was speed vans there, to get to see Ballygunner and the Piercy too.
Yeah,
I've
heard that argument. I've heard that argument about a few teams. Like this, the Piercy group have won Club All Ireland. St Thomas's have won Club All Ireland. This Ballygunner squad, they've won 9 counties in a row. They've won Club All Ireland. But I suppose you have to give credit to the real competitive nature of the competition. We're talking about the best club in every county, and they're just difficult to win. So I would have felt that Ballygunner got plenty credit, and I know, let's say from Waterford, they gave that a shot in the arm. So for me, they certainly don't have to prove anything. They are at the cutting edge of club hurling. I do know that inside Waterford, like they've really pushed on with all their teams and underage. They've raised the bar. And look, I even see something, I think it was from Noel Connors today, about saying that the rest of the clubs just have to come up to the bar. And usually that improves that rising tide, like rather than that being bad for hurling. I think it's telling all our clubs, get your house in order. This is where the level is at. And if you want to compete, come join the party.
If you were in Waterford, like our champions meet on Saturday week. Not too many will give them a chance, but at least we're saying we're looking forward to it. But if you're in Waterford, it's going on for how many years? 9 in a row? You have to be saying we have to try and stop it like some way or another. And it's probably the only way is underage work and Savage at that. And I know Mount Sion have and De La Salle have an awful lot of work done, but it's just they're such a superpower club and fair play to them. And they come across as very humble, and Darragh certainly does anyway. And as I said, whenever Fitzy decides he's enough time down there, I think Darragh Sullivan's a man that should have to be considered with the work he's done for them for the Waterford job, homegrown.
I actually met Darragh Sullivan in Tremor the day Casey Tay won, believe it or not, and myself and Marco, we talked him into joining the Syndicate actually that same day, given the salesman that we are. Like, so good horse racing fan, but very down to earth, carries himself extremely well on the sideline, seems to know exactly what he's doing, and as I said, to be fair to them, strategically, tactically, they need to get plenty of credit because they're getting those calls right, and they got the puck outs right very much in the second half. And they're the small things. And when you have two teams as well prepared as in the Piercy and Ballygunner, two real powerhouses, right? That's when the real small pieces of clips and know what the opposition do. It's really, really fine margins.
Yeah, without giving it a...
Do you know if Sean O'Donnell is still involved with Ballygunner in the video analysis?
Oh, well, sure, yeah. There you go.
He'd be helping against the Piercy again, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I know. That's true.
Yeah. I think
I thought, to be honest, the best sum up I can give of it, Mark, is in the second half, Ballygunner looked at each other in the eye at half time and said, we're not working hard enough. And they're able, and like Downsy's a great man to win puck out. So is Boylan to win puck outs clean. Their puck out was a bit slow and high in the second half, and they just broke the ball. And because their fight level was gone to the next level, they were winning most of the breaks. It was going back down towards the Piercy goal more than often. I
From
think a lot
watching
of
on
it can come down
TV,
to
yeah,
that.
watching on TV, Dalo, if you ask me strategically in the second half, I think that if there was one single difference between winning and losing the game from both sides, was probably the strategy around the puckouts. I thought Ballygunners got theirs right, whereas the stats will tell you that the Piercy didn't get theirs right. So I think that's probably the key difference.
Probably the key difference. Mark, looking ahead, without giving us, I suppose, would you give Ballyea any chance? I know All-Ireland champions, but sure, look at I have to. We won't be having a pod until afterwards. We'll be reviewing it. I don't think we've a pod next week. So Saturday at 3:15 is weird enough for me anyway. The Munster final.
Well, how it's not on a Sunday is unbelievable. I would have thought the junior and the intermediate Munster finals would have been on Saturday, and then your senior final was on Sunday. There's a word out there that the Piercy have an intermediate final, but there was a deal done. They have an intermediate final on that Sunday, where there was a deal done that the Piercy thought they were going to be in the final. I don't really know, but maybe your friends from Limerick can confirm that. But I'm a bit surprised on a Saturday that it isn't billed on a Sunday. Like so, I suppose a lot of people would say that the Ballygun and the Piercy game, that they were the two hot favourites for the Munster Championship, and whoever would come out of it would start as hot favourites in the final. You know Ballyhea as well as I do, they will die with their boots and in their boots. Tony Kelly, he hasn't hit the heights since that Munster final last year. His stock has gone down, and like it took him 45 minutes to get into the match last Sunday. Now, remember, he was off for a long period of time with a bad ankle last year. He had an operation on it as well. So I don't know whether but his form hasn't been good. I think for Ballyhea to get over the line, they'll need a man of the match performance from Tony Kelly. In my view, I think they'll find it very, very difficult. You're coming up against one of the best drilled teams in the country. I'll be putting Ballyhale, Shamrocks up there with the Ballygunners, and I think they're a step ahead of everybody else in my view. I think it'll be a tall order for your county champions at the moment.
Yeah, TJ, I suppose it's hard to disagree. What I will say is last year in the Hammering, they hadn't Kelly, they hadn't Gudgie, and they hadn't Carl Doo, and Carl was in Australia, and he's probably won't be starting, but he comes on a lot of the games. But Gudgie be a mainstay of them now. Gerard O'Connell would be number 5 on his back, and he'd go at it, and they'd know Kelly. Yeah, and like Gary Byrne didn't play with him at the start of the year at all. He was concentrating on the football with Clondigad, and he's only played since the semi-final, and he's really beginning to find, that was probably his best game now against the Bars. So they will be a bit better, but there's that feeling in me as well that Ballygunner, with the confidence of winning the All-Ireland as well, have gone up a notch again.
100%. Yeah, like what they've done over the last 2 years. But like class is permanent. Like there's always a day that Tony Kelly will come up trumps and go to town. Like if his stocks are really, really low with you, Mark, I wouldn't mind buying them stocks because I know that's what he's capable of. And we're heading into a time of the year as well, Dalo, where the scores, the scoring averages come down. You could be into, let's say, poorish weather, and anything is possible. And like I said about Ballyhea earlier on, about their determination, doggedness, just to get results on a given day, they're certainly not without a chance. But I think the general opinion would be, just as you said, Ballygunner have just raised the bar and they've kicked on, I suppose, and like they just proved that again against the Piercy. And it looked to be a higher level game, but look, that's the beauty of hurling, the beauty of sports is that the Ballyhea boys will be out chomping at the bit, ready to have a go. And if Jack Brown maybe wants to prove a point or them type of things that you said at the top of the show, Dalo, what better place to do it than maybe to tie up someone like a Pádraig Manny?
Yeah. Like even you can say at this stage nearly Barry Coote inside and goal for Ballyhea will have to have a very good game. And that's one of those things, like your goalie to have a great game, Kelly to hit the heights, Jack to give a storm or a position at centre back, and Mark Mahoney completely, which I thought the Piercy gave him too much latitude to move around the field. So yeah, look, we understand why they're favourites and we look forward to it. Even though it's 3:15 on a Saturday, I will be there. Paul
Flanagan and Desi Hutchinson. Nice little match up there now.
Well, nice to have a Paul Flanagan to put on him as well. Like,
put on him.
Detail him,
Or your Brendan O'Connell, wouldn't Lohan be loving? Wouldn't he love though to see Brendan O'Connell going on him and say, right, okay, let's see now, because this is the level that I want you at.
Brendan be more of a wing back though normally, and he'd be that kind of an attacking player, love being on the ball, and I'd say he'd be happier. From from a Ballier point of view, I'd say they'd be happier that Paul will defend him and, mark him like he marked Shane O'Donnell in the county final. And, so that's just a thing. The split season, obviously, people are still raving about it. Some people are beginning to whinge a little bit. We are seeing, of course, some poor conditions now, Limerick's field at the moment, but it's a new field, of course, only second match ever on it, so it want to be good. The crowds are, 1,800 was the official attendance in Ennis, and I think it was 3,200 in the Gaelic grounds. Not sure what Galway was like, TJ. Not huge.
I think it wasn't huge. It was around 6,000 or something after the county final, which I think they would have been happy enough. Yeah, not bad. Yeah, I think we were having this discussion the other day about the whole split season. I think, in fairness, from a player's point of view, the general view as players I've spoken to is they're happy with it and it works. The general view within clubs is they like the structure, they know their timings, they know when the championship starts, it works. So I think the only people really whinging maybe are, let's say, people in the media and maybe the people hunting profile of a bigger game later into the year. Now, if you find 2 weeks, will that help? I'm not so sure. The games from a TV and a discussion point of view, the club games are really, really good. But what I'm finding is the following, because they're club teams and they're small, you kind of only tend to go to the game if you're kind of either diehard neutral that the game's on locally, or you're following your club. So to have the Piercing and Ballygunner, which is probably as box office as you'd get from a club game, and you only get 3,000 people at the game, I think that speaks to volumes. But I'm sure then there'll be an awful lot of people tuning into it and wanting to know the result and watching it on TV. So it's a difficult one. But my view right now would be that the split season is working. It might need a little tweak here and there, around the league, and maybe a little bit of timing into the start of the championship. And maybe, as you said there, Dalo, could be by 2 weeks. But overall, I think it's here to stay. And I think that the general view amongst the people within it are happy with it. Even for a club to go away and potentially find some sort of a profile manager or a big manager where you can get your house in order maybe for the first part of the year, Dalo, and bring somebody in, whatever, 6 or 8 weeks out and drive it on. I think there's better structure there. What's the alternative would be the other question. Playing championship matches the first week in April, where you're now asking clubs to go back and be ready the 1st of January and have that, let's say, 12 or 14 weeks. I definitely don't think that's the answer. Whereas this is very solid, it's very structured, and it gives the clubs time. And there seems to be, everyone seemed to run after county championship straightforward enough. So I think it's here to stay.
Yeah, Sky have sort of pulled out, and one of their reasons was the earlier season. Don't buy that really. I think it was a sheer money thing from what I'm reading from John Fogarty yesterday. They just didn't meet the valuation the GAA had on it. There'll be a loss though, it was a good alternative, and the boys were very good at Jamesy and Ali and JJ,
But I suppose Anthony, most days that there was a match on RTE, I'd say 90% of the people tuned into the RTE presentation rather than the Sky presentation. And I suppose for some of the games the Sky were covering that were not covered on the GAA, I'd say the viewing numbers weren't brilliant either at the same time. So I'd say it's purely a commercial decision. But it's back in the laps of the RTE now to keep promoting the game. Yeah,
and we've say Desi Cahill has gone as well now from Sunday night. So say well done today. It's my own time working with him. You would have been there the odd night, TJ, as well with him. I mean, I just think people have to, when they get someone as good as Desi Cahill to run what he was trying to run, lads, because when I was in it the first time before I went to Dublin, I was in it in 07 and 08. We would maybe have 3 hurling matches to look at, and there might be 6 football matches. So you had loads of time to chat. The chat was always there. The crack was always there, having a go at each other, etc., etc. Lads, now the amount of footage from everything, every division of the hurling championship, every division, Tailteann Cup, Camogies, it's all there, and to try and do it in 2 hours. So the best of luck to whoever takes over it. I wish him the best. Heard a few whispers, but I wouldn't like to be commenting on any of those. I suppose we all acknowledge a second show is needed really for highlights, doesn't it?
Correct.
Well, there's a bigger picture, isn't there?
Or behind your red button that you have a football Sunday game and you have a hurling Sunday game, and you have 2 different presenters and you have 2 different studios. To me, I mean, I'd say 90% of the time I just want to watch the hurling stuff. I won't watch the football, and it's not anti-football. I just want to watch it. Just I won't be rushing home anywhere to watch the football, but for football people, that is the only gig in town. They want to watch the Sunday game, the football section. So for me, it would be behind the red button if you want to watch football, and the other one if you want to watch the Hurling the Sunday game.
I think
Gives
there's a
more
good
time than
opportunity to change
Sorry,
now, Mark. There's a good opportunity to change in terms of, let's say, obviously Des is gone. They can have a right good look at
Here we
it.
go.
I know.
Here we go.
I know there are rights issues and around the whole thing, but like with TG4 doing a highlights program on Monday night, so understanding all of them, obviously, and getting through them, whether you go down the road of football and hurling, and you said at the start of the show there's a possibility of, let's say, the ladies football and the camogie becoming all part of this as well, right? To me, as I said, maybe the bigger picture, maybe there's a GEA TV going to come down the track here at some point where you basically have everything, and then you don't need red buttons. As I said, look, can you imagine, let's say, the horse racing without having racing TV? Like, it would be very, very difficult to promote it. And the flip side for them is the racing TV beaming it into homes maybe has lessened the attendances hugely at the track. So, look, there's essentially the bigger picture trying to find.
You're right. It has lessened the attendances at the match, but it has. You couldn't put the number of viewers that are watching whatever sport it is now that you can beam into your house, and you are doing untold promotion of whatever sport you have by beaming it into people's room and make it handy for them. And ultimately, what you will have is you'll have the die-hard supporter, whatever game there is, if it's hockey, soccer, football, rugby, hurling, racing, they'll go to the races or they'll go to the individual because they want to be there to see it live. But the bigger picture is you are angling for that person out there to get their support, to get their interest. And by bringing it into their front room, like we saw in the live streaming, people will watch the live streaming during COVID. People will watch and people will pay for the facility. And we have to provide that facility for them.
Dalo, in relation to promotion of the game and let's say, from our point of view, hurling, and let's say we would go anywhere to watch a good hurling match. But I had the good fortune of being in New York again recently with the lads from Limerick, and we got really well looked after. A little bit of a shakedown up there. In fairness to the group outsider, Eddie Wiley and the lads really well looked after us. So we had good function there and a few of the lads out. But John Mackey brought us to an NFL game on the Sunday. So it was my first time being at an American football game. My God, the promotion, the tailgate party beforehand, where everyone gets into the zone, everyone gets talking about the game. I was just trying to imagine, let's say, a big game in either Ennis or the Gaelic grounds where everyone has their SUVs and their tailgate party and the noise going and the hurley's out. And I still think that there's plenty more promotion that the GA could do. The billboards where they have the teams up and like they make an awful lot of noise. And in terms of an event, the NFL for me, it was a superb event. The noise, the cheering, everything. The game. The game wouldn't be for me now. And I met Jackie Turrell over there, and he'd be raving about the NFL, about how good it is, and and it all stopped.
Big Texas fan, indeed.
Big Texas fan, yeah. But in terms of the actual game itself, wouldn't probably be my cup of tea. I couldn't imagine going to a game, sitting down watching the game. I think you have to get into the zone. But in terms of the GA, there's still an awful long way to go here, like in terms of what we can do here and to maximise the promotion of it. Like, as I said, as a product. And that's why I'm trying to keep you and your likes with your VAR and all that kind of stuff away from it, Mark. As a product, the instinct of a hurling match on the day, it's very important that we don't go tampering with that. And I know you've made a point to me about one or two incidents just to have a look at them, but that is not legally possible because once there's VAR, now you can look at every incident. So if my one goal between now and the start of the league, right, is to get VAR out of your head for 2023, it's not going to happen. We don't need it.
Okay.
I'm afraid
there's no need to answer that, Matt. We know your opinions on it. There's no need to answer that. There's no need.
Right.
But to keep
move on.
Conscious of our time, the All-Stars, TJ, you didn't dominate them like last year, but you have the hurler of the year in Burnsy. I think everyone would agree he was the hurler of the year.
Yes. Phenomenal year he had. Like, he's just brought free taking from that type of range to a new dimension. And I think there's people going to be measured long range free takers into the future against Dermot Burns. It's a serious weapon for this Limerick team. Even 1 or 2 days when, let's say, things aren't going according to plan, that he can put the ball down. I'm not even sure what his range is. I definitely saw one just outside the D where he nailed in Croke Park. So it's just a phenomenal tool to have in any team. He just had one of those years that, from a wing-back's point of view, everything fell into place. In fairness to the other lads, like I would say Barry Nash had a super year as well. I do think that Aaron Gillan, like, maybe could have been nominated. Just from my own point of view, I thought that he carried us in the forwards at times when we really needed it. He's a top-class inside forward. And I just think that he's in that bracket, which is great. I will throw a lot of Limerick people on about Sean Finn. In fairness to Shawnee, he is definitely, I think if we were all picking a team tomorrow morning on form, I think he would be the first man into the full back line to set. Look, that speaks for itself. I can't take away that Mikey Butler didn't have a good year. He did have a good year. He did have some man marking duties which he took out well. But for me, Shawnee Finn's a better cornerback. I don't think there's any point in having the argument. In fairness to Shawnee, I was with him in New York as well. He was trying to make a few cocktails and different things behind the bar. He is definitely a way better cornerback.
Boy, Shawnee, you're a man of multi-talents. We always knew you were anyway.
You know, like, before you go away from the All-Stars now, I have to defend my own county here in this scenario.
What?
Last year, we went to an All-Ireland final and got no All-Star. We won no Munster final, the same as yourselves won no Munster final. You got to a semi-final and you ended up with 3 All-Stars after making it to the semi-final. Cork won an All-Ireland final the year previous and got no All-Star. There's something seriously wrong with the judges, I'd have to say. Now, you know my feelings. I didn't think we deserved anything, but it certainly isn't right when you see the Clare lads, and it's no disrespect to the Clare lads that got him. Fair play to them. But it makes no sense when Cork got no All-Star, having been in an All-Ireland final, and Clare end up with 3.
I suppose it was just those epic Limerick games, really, were just the one in Ennis and the Munster final being one of the greatest Munster finals in decades. I suppose that swung it for the 3 lads. I won't push you on which of the 3 of them you like left off. I
know. Listen, it's just the unfairness of it. We all look. Clare didn't play well against Wexford, and they didn't play well against Kilkenny, and still managed to win. And the best of luck to them. But there's something seriously flawed in the system if a team gets to an All-Ireland final and can't get 1 All-Star.
Yeah, it's someone you just have to bring back, Frank. I'm afraid there's no other answer.
In fairness,
Frank back.
In fairness to Kevin O'Donovan, he packed out Páirc Uí Chaoimh in the middle of the season with Munster and South Africa. So, you compare that to the attendances at our club big games, the big club, and then you put on the spectacle and you pack out the rafters. You
might be as well off if he focused a bit more on the hurling, you see, and the big games and getting more All-Stars than Ed Sheeran and rugby matches and stuff. Elton John, like, maybe that's where you're going slightly wrong. You don't see any of that going on in Cusack Park.
Well, look, all I will say to you is that there was big hassle there a couple of years ago that we had 100 million worth of debt, and I see the Kerry County Board are now doing a facelift to Killarney for 72 million euros. We're well on the way to reducing our 100 million, I can tell you, and we have the stadium now, we have the pitch, I think the players are on the way. Just wait, just give us time, Dalo. We're on the way.
Once they're not playing full back for your beloved Munster in rugby, that's the problem we have again now if you can hold on to them.
Yeah. Just one interesting note on the All-Stars, Dalo, was the 2 teams who won the football and hurling All-Ireland and who were good winners, both Kerry and Limerick. None of the 2 teams had an All-Star in the middle of the field. Just interesting note, that's all.
Yeah. And the hurling was, Will was obviously very strong in the middle of the field.
Just saying, that's all. Unusual, yeah. I'll just leave that out there.
Have you a lot of photographs, have you? Because I have a nice few because we weren't on for a few weeks.
No, you're okay. Up away. I'm grand.
Okay, I just want to extend sympathies to my great friend Ray Finn, who was kitman with me with Dublin, head of logistics. He was there right through Ger Cunningham's time and a nice bit of Matty Kenny's time as well. I'd say he's given massive service. His dad, Paddy, died and was buried on Monday in Artane. And I think it would be nice for us to mention, and it was lovely to hear lads being at the matches on Sunday, the minute silence for Vicky Phelan, both places, Gaelic grounds, and a round of applause broke out in the Gaelic grounds. Was fabulous. And Michael Ellard, who often interviewed me trying to get the Clare team, he was a great journalist. He was gas man as well. Michael
Absolutely.
Ellard of the Examiner.
He
was.
He was like when McKilly were going well. We had a couple of county finals, and we went to man of the matches the following day. And Michael Ellard, what a pleasure it was to sit down and have a couple of pints, have a joke, a laugh, a chat. What an absolute gentleman of a man.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
In peace.
Lads, looking forward on the Munster scene. We've nicely teed up in intermediate. Monleen beating Dora Bearfield, and Ross Gray managing to hold off. Who did Ross Gray beat, lads? It's Inniscarra, sorry, Mark. And then you have Swannies on the road again, Mark, with Ballygiblin. They're trying to win the same Munster title for the second year.
I know, incredible, isn't it?
Incredible, because you restructured, obviously. But they play St. Kieran's, which, TJ, I'm trying to find it hard. St. Kieran's are called the Midwest, are they?
No, they'd be West. They'd be probably more better known historically as a just very strong football team, and it would have won a couple of counties in football. Yeah. So they're back close to Newcastle West Side. So they've had a great win there, and they're going well, and they have some winner in terms of to win that game in extra time.
Yeah, they're up against Shane Meehan inspired banner there. Shane, to be some player at that level for them. Just looking quickly across to the other, we've spoken about Galway. Unbelievable semi-finals really in the Leinster campaign, lads, with Ballyhale Shamrocks of all the titles taking on Naas. Some win by Naas against Shinrone, following on from beating Kilmiley and winning the All-Ireland Intermediate final last year. Yeah. Now they have to face into Ballyhale. I know they've beaten them, I think, in underage finals down in Kilkenny, because they play a lot of their hurling. Unbelievable. And we have Kilmacud Crokes, huge club obviously as well. They might have a problem there with Brian Sheehy, who's a dual player, because both finals are done for the same day. They play St. Mullins of Carlow, who also had a huge win beating Ferns.
Is the Naas game in Naas, Dalo?
Don't know. They're this weekend anyway, aren't they?
I thought it was on in Naas, because I was talking to Owen Stapleton, who's done a huge amount of work, and I know he's had an operation there recently. We'll give him a shout out. He's on the road to recovery, and he's done a huge amount of work there with Kildare and Naas over the last number of years. And like here's a good possibility for hurling to just have a new team appear, and for them to beat the Offaly champions is huge for them, and to be playing against the might of Ballyhale, I know it's going to be very difficult for them, and will be tricky, and we all know how good Ballyhale are. But again, if you're to climb up these mountains, you have to come across these teams and learn a little bit more. So just really, really good to see Naas in the semi-final, and I know there's an awful lot of work going on there, and big numbers there too.
Yeah,
and it's very successful in the football side of things as well. They have dual purpose, haven't they?
Very, very strong dual, very strong dual. And you'll probably be expecting a Kilmacud Ballyhale final, I suppose, really, when you'd look at that. Kilmacud will have no walkover now against St. Mullins's, but a nice young team in Crokes now, a real changed team, actually, even from the couple of years I was there, and that's not that long ago. They've introduced an awful lot of very, very good minors, so they seem to be buzzing. And just an interesting one was the scoreline, I think, between Schlockneil and Portaferry up north. At Schlockneil, lads, whoever comes out of Galway, if the winners of Schlockneil and Dunley will give them a fair battle in somewhere like Mullingar or Parnell or Armagh or something like that. I tell you that, because Schlockneil must be due to get to that final at some stage if they can manage it. But Dunley, I think, have done maybe 3 or 4 in a row now in Antrim, so that'll be a huge final up there as well. Want to just thank a few people. Bear with me. I'll run through them as fast as I can, right? People calling here to Murphy's, lads. Even though all my locals shout out, you're always here with me. But just people who've come, especially. The first man is a local, Johnny Collins, great character here, much loved by us all. Big Killimer supporter. He's 60th. What a night. Then Stephen Littleton stag party. Marco, I told you about the boy James O'Leary and the boys of Kilmichael. I'll tell you, they laid the tens lying low, but they fairly laid Murphy's low after the place too. They were brilliant. They were great crack. Came early, went early. Mary and Amy's hen party. Thurles Sarsfield football, came up and beat Liscannor up in Milltown last Sunday week, I think, and came straight down here. And then last weekend was demented. 2013, a brilliant reunion with the Clare team of 13. Some of you might have seen the picture on Twitter. Maybe you did, TJ. Then we had Shane O'Donnell's group, Debbie Clooney, and we had Peter Duggan on both nights. Peter Duggan's sick of the place. Now, Peter, I hope Brian Lohan's not listening to this. He'd be hanging here. Dougie's happy once he's sitting down with a deck of cards and having the crack. And then we had Glyn lads as well. There was a load of Glyn lads on tour. They were just over in the ferry and on tour. And then missed on Sunday. Our regular guest was Shane McGrath and his Ballina henchmen coming from a stag in Lahinch on Saturday night. Missed them, but Eilish looked after them well. She tells me anyway. And they ate a good feed and they drank plenty pints and they watched the 2 matches on TV. And a special shout out to Smith O'Brien's Killaloo 25-year Jubilee Junior A champions who were here with me Saturday night, and did we have a great night and a great crack with them as well. Unbelievable. And my last one is I just want Saturday week, and I'm sure he'll organise to get to look at the Munster Club final at some stage. But Cathal McFernan from Fantasy Hurling from Onrua is getting married to Cora, great camogie player with Onrua as well. I know it's on up in Dungannon. I think maybe going to Dundalk or somewhere for the reception. And I know that's going ahead. So I want to give a special shout out to Cathal. So good to us here and the crack we have with the fantasy.
100%.
Yeah, so
brilliant.
The best of luck to them. And I'm sorry if I was milking it there, lads, with the people that call, but they do like the picture outside the window and the shout out on the pod. And I've probably missed one or two as well. And apologies because we haven't had a pod in 6 or 7 weeks. So, TJ, anything you want to throw in that I've left out? You were well looked after in New York.
Yeah, I know. In fairness, I said that's a nice trip. Your buddy Johnny Kennedy is always good to us. He looks after us. In fairness, it brings around the place. And just a few of the lads that said Eddie Wild runs a show over there for Club Limerick, New York. Really, really good to us. Nice trip. I know the lads like it, and as I said, I'm hoping it's around for the future. Pat Reedy, a great Limerick man from Glyn, back West Limerick, was honoured this year at the function. So, look, all told, and I suppose, look, when you have things like Liam McCarthy in your possession, these things are just really, really worthwhile. And when you go on tour and you meet all these people and they're big listeners to a lot of our podcast and a lot of GA podcasts, and they follow everything, it just shows the importance of things like the Sunday game and maybe Sky and all these things, because there's an awful lot of people at all different corners of the world who still like to tune into those games and see what's going on. So, yeah, no, really good. And I said the Limerick people over there, just a special group. And as I said, we're living in a special time. So as I said, if we can eke another 1 or 2 out of it now, out of the current group, without being overly greedy, we'd be really happy.
I spent 4 nights with the men of 95 and 97 in Alicante.
Lovely.
The weekend before last. And I can tell you, the body is just about coming back to itself this week, Mark. So it was a very difficult week last week, because although we were doing the stuff we were able to do 28 or 27 and 25 years ago, we weren't able to recover. Like, I said, how did we do 2 weeks of this stuff when we actually won the All-Irelands? But recovery was tough, but we had great crack.
Did you go midweek, Dalo?
What?
Did you go midweek?
We went Wednesday. Lovely flight now. I'd recommend it to anyone. Out of Shannon, key to it. No hassle. Out of Shannon, few drinks in Shannon, 4:30 on a Wednesday, and we were back into Shannon at 1 o'clock on the Sunday. Now, the only mistake that was made was the Clarecastle lads couldn't go home on the Sunday straight away. Story of our lives.
Yeah.
But we great crack.
Any horse outside of that? Ken Budd's horse Saturday, Mark? No, you're happy enough to kind of just stick nail the colours to that one. Let's see what happens. We've had some good racing and something more to look forward to. We'll watch the space. I have the Cheltenham trip for 2023 as well.
I think we have one for today.
Have we?
We have one for today.
Yeah, but the listeners probably won't get it. But yeah, we have one for it's later on, isn't it?
They get a chance. 20-4, Heavenly Clouds, and of course this is at the end of the podcast. So to only be out at 1:45 if they're going to get it. So
Larry, the pressure's on. Heavenly Clouds.
Heavenly Clouds. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the one for today now.
Okay, Kate, pull it off. We need one.
For the expenses.
Okay, lads, we'll talk to you the week after the Munster final, I presume, 4th, 5th or 6th or one of those days of December. And we won't have any more games, I'd say. We might have the Leinster Club final then, the following weekend. So we may be able to squeeze in a Christmas show along the way. Great stuff, as always.
See you there.
See you, lad.
See you, TJ.
A grain of rice, a grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lad.
There's a small bit of a needle there.
Now, come on.
Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
Our mission was to show that we're no longer the whipping boys of Munster.